This is Noah Cooper back with Perry Randall, my co-host on this weekly podcast that we talk about NBA for about 15 to 20 minutes here. And this episode, it's going to be all about the All-Stars. All the All-Star reserves were announced yesterday after the starters had been announced last week. Filling out the East roster was Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Love, Al Horford, Kyle Lowry, Bradley Beal, John Wall, and Victor Oladipo. And filling out the Western Conference was Karl-Anthony Towns, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Perry's favorite player, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Russell Westbrook. So, Perry, what do you think about those All-Star selections?
Al Horford's going to get picked last.
I don't know about that, Perry. I'm thinking Kevin Love is going to be the last pick right there. I think LeBron's going to hold off on getting him. I think he might be picking Kevin Love right before that, and I think he'll be the last pick by Steph Curry.
No, I think everybody deserves in this game. Everybody deserves to be an All-Star. I just think that there are other players who are more deserving to be an All-Star that didn't make the cut, like players like Lou Will, Paul George, and CP3.
Is there anyone in the East that you think would be a good replacement for someone like Al Horford?
Well, the East is really bad. No, they're just not as good as the West. So I would say if I had to pick anybody, I probably wouldn't, just because the East really isn't that good. I mean, maybe if you want to pick Ben Simmons or something like that, just for more entertainment. He really doesn't deserve it as maybe someone like Al Horford, but if you want to pick somebody for entertainment purposes, you go ahead and pick someone like Ben Simmons.
Yeah, the All-Star game, it's all about entertainment. Last year, I forgot what the final score was, but I want to say it was in like the 160s or 170s. It was pretty insane. Points were being scored everywhere. No defense was being played. You're usually seeing about the final 8 or 9 minutes of the All-Star game. The players start to buckle down a little bit. They start to play defense if the game is close. And last year, it was a little close, but players never did that throughout the whole game. It seemed like they didn't really care about winning that much. And that's when you'd throw in someone like Ben Simmons instead of Al Horford for the type of entertainment factor. But when the coaches vote on this, they see Al Horford's defensive intensity. They see how important he is to that Boston offense. And, I think he was a pretty solid pick. If you look at the analytics, the advanced metrics, Al Horford is leading the NBA in a lot of categories, real plus minus, true shooting percentage for a center. He's really high up there in a lot of the categories. So I don't really think it's a bad pick. Another person I'd throw out there to be a replacement for Horford would be someone like Andre Drummond, because this season he's putting up the type of rebounding numbers that we really haven't seen in a long time. He's averaging 15 points and about 15 rebounds a game too, and I think when you combine that with the assists, the blocks, and the steals he's getting, the season he's having hasn't been around since Wilt Chamberlain put up a stat line like that in his later career. So I think that would be deserving of an All-Star bid, but the Pistons, they're only sitting at 500 right now. I think if they were around, the top of the Eastern Conference like they started out in the beginning of the year, Drummond might have more of a fighting shot, but in this situation, he really doesn't compared to where the Pistons sit.
And I think that he completely agrees with you from his tweet yesterday. He says, "Guess I got to start doing backflips every point I score to get attention around here. LMAO, on to the next." So it sounds like he agrees with you, Noah. And like I said, when you were talking about Al Horford, there's no one in this All-Star game who's not an All-Star. I just feel in my heart that, like you said, someone like Andre Drummond can replace someone like Al Horford because their team that they're on, they're not going to make the All-Star team. But at the same time, they're still putting up numbers, like you said, numbers since someone like Wilt Chamberlain. He's still out there balling, giving buckets, grabbing boards, man. He needs to be recognized. But since the team that he's on, he's not going to get that, which sucks for someone like Andre Drummond.
Yeah, and he's made an All-Star team before, so it's not like he's never done it before. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back again. He can maybe use this as a little motivating factor, help the Pistons out, try to make a late playoff push and try to make it to the playoffs and maybe pull an upset in the first round, especially if they maybe face someone like the Cavs. You never know with how they're doing. They're really sliding. You never know what might happen there. And then on the West, there's definitely some snubs you mentioned earlier, Paul George being one of them, Lou Will being another one, and you could definitely make a case for both of those guys.
Well, what makes me upset is that the Warriors have 4 All-Stars on their team, and that's basically 1/3 of the team. Mm-hmm. And I feel like just because they're the top team in the West, that's the reason why they're going to get 4 All-Stars. And there's no disrespect to someone like Klay Thompson who get you 60 points on any given night, or Defensive Player of the Year, Draymond Green. No disrespect to those guys, but at the same time, you guys already have 2 players starting, and that's Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. So I don't see why we're going to give it to those guys when, like I said, someone like Lou Will or Paul George or CP3 can get it just as easily, because I feel like those three guys are contributing way more to their team than someone like Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, who could, I wouldn't say take a night off, but they could have a bad night and their team will still easily win.
Yeah, well, yeah, someone like Draymond Green, he hasn't even played for almost a month of the season. He's been out with various injuries. He's had some DNP coaches' decisions because the team was just rolling without him, and they didn't really need to risk him out on the floor. Where someone like Lou Will, he's been coming off the bench most of the year. I know he's starting to be in the starting lineup a little more, but he's played a lot of the season off the bench, and I really got a feel for a guy like Lou Will, being in his 11th season, being the type of guy that this might be the only shot he ever has in an all-star bid. He's putting up 23 points a game. He's putting up 5 assists a game. He's putting up the same amount of steals as Klay Thompson. Really, the only thing Klay Thompson hasn't beaten is rebounds, and that's only by like 1.5 rebounds a game. And probably defense, too, and the team having a better record. But just think what the Clippers would have looked like if they didn't have Lou Will on their team, because they've been without Blake Griffin for a lot of this season. They lost Chris Paul in the offseason. They've been without Patrick Beverley. They've been without Danilo Gallinari. And they're still sitting around the 7, 8, 9, almost 10 area in the Western Conference. And I feel like without Lou Will, they'd definitely be near the bottom.
Well, one thing we do have to understand is that Lou Will's been a bucket getter since the womb. So whenever he's put in that position to where he's got to lead the team, he has no other choice, no Blake Griffin, no DeAndre Jordan, he's going to do what he does, and that's ball out, which is what he's been doing, and that's the reason why the Clippers are still in the playoff hunt. I believe they're sitting right, one of the last spots in the West, possibly at like 9, 10, or
yeah. I know they got up to as much as 7, but I think they've lost 2 in a row. I don't know where they sit specifically right now.
Well, yeah, like you said, the Clippers they probably be 13th if Lou Will wasn't on that team, and I just think that's very important comparing someone like him to someone like Draymond Green, who's not contributing as much to his team. Now, I understand Draymond Green is the energy of that team for sure, but at the same time, the Clippers wouldn't even be close to being in the playoffs, most likely, if Lou Will wasn't on that team. So I just think that someone like him, even someone like Chris Paul, who, when he's playing, the Rockets are a very hard team to beat. As we saw, they beat the Warriors last weekend, and that's with a full team. So I believe that it's better to have 2 Rockets players than 4 Warriors players, in my opinion. So that's the worst thing that I've seen from the West that I can say.
Well, besides that 4 or 5 game slide that the Rockets had there, they've had a really solid season. When players like Chris Paul, James Harden, and Clint Capella all play together, they're 18-0. They haven't even lost. And even Chris Paul and James Harden together, they've only lost 2 or 3 games all year. And you're telling me that they only have 1 All-Star? I just feel like Chris Paul might deserve that nod to a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see if Jimmy Butler's injury that he has right now, his knee injury, lingers that close to the All-Star break, and he has to sit out the All-Star game. Which player would get another bid? Do you think it'd be Paul George, Lou Will, or Chris Paul, or anyone else?
I think Lou Will, just because there's been so much more talk about Lou Will than probably Chris Paul or Paul George. But all 3 of those guys are definitely deserving. But I think that if Jimmy Butler happens to sit out that All-Star game, I think that Lou Will get it for sure. But as we touched on Jimmy Butler, I'm actually very happy that someone like Karl Anthony Towns has got his first All-Star game. I follow him on Instagram, and he seems very ecstatic. Looked like he was crying. He had a little plastic Burger King crown on his head, man.
Yeah, I saw the video of his family jumping up and down. They really looked like they were enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment, and I just think someone like him is very deserving, because he's the big man of that Timberwolves team that's sitting right in the middle of the top 8 teams in the West. So I think that's important for someone like him. I'm very happy that Damian Lillard got it, one of my favorite players, as you said before. But the thing with him is I'm not for sure if it's more because he talks about it so much that he's not ever making an All-Star team. So I don't know if it's because people feel bad, the coaches feel bad for him that he's not making it. And that's no disrespect. He averaged like 25 points per game, 5, 6, 7 assists per game, and that he's a baller. But he was one of the wild card players who made it, so he just barely made the cut over someone like Lou Will. So I just don't know. And Russell Westbrook touched on it in the interview. He was like, there's guys complaining about not making an All-Star game when there's someone like Paul George who's out here leading the league in steals, who probably deserves to be an All-Star game.
Yeah, he's playing both sides of the floor.
So I just think that All-Star game is pretty weird how they pick it and stuff like that. I'm glad that we keep seeing changes every single year, because that shows me that the NBA is trying to get better. But I do think as we progress along with the playoff format, I feel like we should go ahead and switch to the 24 best players that are deserving. Maybe still keep the way we're voting for them and all that, but regardless of the conference, I believe it should be the top 24 players, because it's not only about the people who deserve to be in the All-Star game, it's also about the entertainment that we're going to get from the All-Star game. So that's what bothers me, having someone like Al Horford in the game, because I know he's going to play good 6 minutes, and he's going to be done for the rest of the game.
Yeah, he's not going to do anything spectacular either.
Exactly. He might shoot a three-pointer, and that's what he does in the regular game. That's not what I'm trying to see. If you want to shoot those, join the three-point contest.
Yeah, we don't want to see Al Horford's defensive effort out there in the All-Star game.
So I just think that there's the entertainment factor that the NBA might have to start adding, and I think we add that with the starters, but I feel like the reserves, they sometimes get out of hand, because a couple years ago, I didn't want to see Paul Millsap in the game. He didn't do a single thing that I wanted to see. He maybe scored a couple points here and there, but he really didn't play that much, and he wasn't really dunking the ball or anything like that. I want to see guys like Steph Curry shoot it from half court. I want to see LeBron James get oops off the backboard, and I want to see Kevin Durant do some type of stretch Space Jam stuff just along with Antetokounmpo. So that's what I want to see in the All-Star game. So that's what I got to say.
Yeah, we all like to have a good time in the All-Star game. The All-Star game's all about fun, and when you have guys like Al Horford out there, it doesn't create as much excitement. And you kind of saw that a few years ago, and yes, he was very deserving this season. I'm a huge Bulls fan. Joakim Noah made the All-Star team a few years in a row, and I think he finished like 4th in MVP voting one of those years, so he was definitely deserving of the bid, of the nod. But the only thing, I mean, he's not going to be that exciting of a player when he's out on the floor.
Because here's the thing, with someone like Al Horford who doesn't play that much, this is what it shows to me, that he enjoys watching the All-Star game just as much as me. So he needs to be sitting down in a suit or whatever type of clothing he likes to wear on the side with the fans, and allow somebody else that's going to bring some fire and pizzazz to the game, someone like Lance Stevenson. That's what I want to see. Him get loose in the All-Star game. That's what I want to see.
Maybe we should have the All-Star game, and then we should create like the most exciting players game or something.
They're going to be too tired. They don't even play now, so they had to play 2 games.
We got to put all the role players, all the trash-talking role players on one squad, and they all got to go face off against each other. 2 squads. They got to go face off against each other.
That's what we got the celebrity All-Star game for. The guys that really can't really do anything, but they're going to start doing some stuff. That's what we got that game.
We might in the game I'm talking about, we might as well throw Kevin Hart out in that game too. We might as well throw out some celebrities in that one, make it real fun. I think that'd really spice the game up a little bit, and that'd make it really exciting.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw out my MVP prediction this year, though, since we know the players at least.
All right, what's that?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that the All-Star Game MVP of 2018 will be,
drum roll please,
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Interesting pick. See, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Russell Westbrook again. I really wouldn't, because he's the type of dude that he doesn't really care. He's going to shoot 40 shots in the All-Star game.
And here's the thing. Someone like Steph Curry, who really doesn't care that much about the All-Star game, might end up sitting like later on in the game, so someone like Russell Westbrook can play a little bit more.
Or maybe LeBron might go after it, since that might be the only thing the Cavs do this season.
Hey, his 15th year, man. He's playing like it's his second. So
it'll be interesting to see for sure. The one other thing I have to ask is, how do you feel about the new All-Star draft format? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you wish it was televised? Do you like it the way it is?
Like I said earlier, the East sucks. So I think it's pretty good that we're finally mixing it up, and there will be East playing with West players. I think it adds a little bit of competition. So if I see my teammate across the court, I'm about to get in you. I'm about to dunk on your head. Come guard me, please. Something like that. Some things that we haven't seen since Kobe Bryant's last game, whenever him and LeBron were going at it. That's stuff that I would really love to see, not only in regular games, but definitely in the All-Star game. So I believe that the draft has made that has added competitiveness that we haven't seen in a couple of years because Steph Curry was laying on the ground getting scared of Antetokounmpo. You shouldn't be scared, man. So, hey, he might draft him on his team, so he might not have to worry about that. But I think the draft is added that perspective to it. But I think going ahead, like I said earlier, and doing the top 24 players that deserve to be in it instead of still spreading it out with East and West players and then combining them, I think the top 24 players will add that next level of competition because we're going to see skilled players in every position that can dunk the ball, shoot the ball, and all that.
Mm-hmm. And with the way you said it, too, being the top 24, you see this problem in the NFL as well. Players that make the Pro Bowl, there's definitely a lot of players that, might be deserving, but they just miss out on it because they're in the NFC, and the NFC is tougher than the AFC. Or you saw people like Alex Smith, a lot of people thought he should make the Pro Bowl, and he eventually did, after injuries and whatnot. But, you see this problem in every league where people argue that it just needs to be the top players instead of dividing it into separate conferences and having all these separate issues. But my problem with the NBA All-Star draft this year, the new thing they added, is the fact that it's not going to be televised. I thought that was the main point of why they were doing this. So we could see, I wanted to see all the players lined up in a row or something like you're at a pickup game, and I wanted LeBron to be throwing some shade at Kyrie, picking Kevin Durant first overall or something. I wanted to see some of that, but I guess we won't. We'll see in the future if anything like that happens. I hope it does.
I do agree with you. We should be able to see the draft. I want to see who gets picked last. Although I know for sure it's Al Horford, but
it's Kevin Love, bro.
Hey, let's add this added. The next idea of having the two captains pick from a bowl of names, and
we go.
Then they have to pick. They get to see who's on their team. So I think that'll be fun if they did that. So that's just another idea, Adam Silver. Hey, listen to this podcast. But no, I think what this is a great step forward for the All-Star game because honestly, it's been pretty boring these last couple of years. You might see a dunk here and there, but other than that, we really haven't seen anything too exciting. But I think this draft and the two captains picking their teams will be the next level of stepping towards a better All-Star game for the future.
Yeah, I think the All-Star game will definitely be exciting from here out moving forward. I think this year will be a great All-Star game. And I think the way the NBA is going, they're really transforming it, and they're really making the All-Star game a lot better. You have anything else you'd like to add, Perry?
Who's your pick for the MVP?
I said Russell Westbrook, man. Russell Westbrook. I mean, hey, this is subject to change, all right? In the next week, my mind might change 5 times.
Hey, when you're on Family Feud, you press the button. You can't go back, man.
Hey, at this very moment, it's Russell Westbrook. So we'll see. All right, this is Noah Cooper signing off on the Weekly NBA Podcast. For Perry Randall, I'm out.